Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. So today, before we get to our very special guest, let's kick it off with our weekly Patreon question of the week. And this week, we have a good one that fits the guest. So, what is your all-time dream car? Favorite dream car?
What do you got, man? What's your favorite dream car?
I can't say exactly because it is a dream, and I've had the same answer since I was probably 6 or 7 years old.
Oh.
So I haven't yet got it, but in terms of the second dream car, I guess is the car I own currently. It's a Ferrari 456.
Ooh.
I like Italian
Oh, well,
stuff.
hey,
Nice.
good for you, man.
That's awesome. That's
All right, what about you?
My dream car?
Yep.
That's changed over the years. I think at this point it would be like a Mercedes Sprinter van, just so we could do comfortable road trips because I like to travel with the kids. So
Those are nice, though.
And they're
I will
so
say they are
freaking
nice.
expensive when you have them all decked out. I want it all decked out, and so the whole family can travel in style and
What about you?
do fun road trips.
You know, I'm probably going to go a nice, comfortable luxury route, go with the nice matte black G-Wagon.
Mm.
I think those are so sexy.
So they are. They have great. I think they have great lines. I didn't know that the two doors were overseas. Overseas, you have the 2-door G-Wagons, but over here we have the 4 doors. Is that true?
I mean, I've definitely seen some 4 doors here.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like 2
Four
doors.
doors are here.
Right,
Two
right.
doors are over there.
Could be
I
true.
heard that. I didn't know if that was true or not. Okay, so mine, I'm going to have to go old school, man. I think if I could have any car parked in there, it had to be the Mach 5. I mean, I just think that was an awesome ride. I loved Speed Racer growing up, and
Yeah.
how many people have that one, right? So I'm going to have to, I was thinking about the Batmobile, but then you're like, which one? So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with the Mach 5 on that one.
Yeah.
All right, great question.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, brother. Speaking of cars and racing, our guest today, man, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Like I said, before we started this, I started talking to you about some of the lessons learned that I could teach my kid and just the overall discipline and manners and fortitude that it takes to get from where you started to where you're at right now. So, hey, brother, thank you again for coming on here and doing this, man.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
So I like to, tell me how to say your name, how you say it properly.
Yeah.
It's Jann Mardenborough.
Mardenborough, okay. Great, that was a proper name too. I remember I was like, man, you even sound like a racer. I think the Almighty, man, kind of designed you from birth coming into this, from what I understand your story. So I can't wait to get into it. So you're a racer and a serious one, but this all started on a completely different path, and that's the best part about it. And so if I could, man, if you could just take us back, like where were you born and kind of raised up at?
Sure, I was born in Darlington, which is a town in northern England, near Newcastle. I was there for a short period of time because my father was playing professional football, and he was happened to be playing for Darlington at the time, the pro club, and I was born there. We moved to another northern town where my brother was born. But we spent the majority of my life and my brother's life in Cardiff, Wales. So I've lived there. I don't live there anymore, but I lived there for about 20 years. I grew up there. It's shown in the movie where I grew up and where I went to school there. So yeah, 2 parents. Mother still is a what does she do? She's a payroll manager.
Don't get this one
Dad
wrong.
now works. Yeah, I've got to be on it.
But yeah, don't
My
get that
dad-
about mom, bro.
Yeah, I know. She never lets me forget it. Then my dad, he now works on the railway after football, which is again same in the movie. And my brother, he works at the production line at Aston Martin. You know, 2 parents growing up. Now they're now separated, my parents, but I was already an adult when that happened. So majority of my life living in the same household. My dad is always somebody who's been a massive figurehead. Thinking of it now when I'm an actual adult, whereas when you're a kid, you just think you just have a really authoritarian father
Sure,
when
yeah.
you compare it
You have no idea.
to your other friends.
Yeah.
And my dad isn't an academic person, but he really instilled in me and my younger brother things about life where you have one life. And he always used to joke, but it was kind of a serious comment where would say he's paid to kick around a football for 13 years. He was paid to do something he loved. And when you're kind of 8 years old, 9 years old, you don't really understand. But as you get older, so what do I want to do? And my thing was racing. Didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no idea how I was going to go from A to B. But it was always instilled in my head. Once I had the understanding of what a job was, I thought to myself, look, I want to do that. Don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to do that.
How'd you know that? How did you, because there's usually a spark, a picture, a movie, you kind of meet somebody. And I love this question because it really tells a lot about a person. Like, hey, what was it that when you saw that thing, you were like, okay, everything changes. And especially you, the commitment that I've seen that you had growing up, that means not only did you get bit by whatever that was, you got infected by it.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I have an answer. It was my parents, because they had a friend when we lived in a place called Lincoln. I think I must have been around 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And at this point, my dad is now giving me the football to kind of see if I have an interest. I have no interest in this round object at all.
At all, right? I mean, didn't even interest you?
Zero. No, like I was more interested in the shiny trophies my dad had like on displayed in the living room. I remember that as a kid, and I was always getting told off to stop touching them. My parents, they had a friend, they had a child the same age as me. I think he was 1 year older than me. And we went over their house one time, and this child had a load of Matchbox cars, little small cars. And up until that point, my only real interest was a spoon and green beans. Those are I don't know, I was somehow infatuated with a spoon and green beans. But when I went over his house, it was now, from that moment on, it was cars. I took a load of them home and I was just infatuated. From that moment on, it was cars. And then I started watching on TV. And then the snowball grew. And then the PlayStations came out, and there's a story how that came to be as well. But it was through my family friend's son, the love of cars and the object and the pictures. I had them on my wall. The car that I have now, currently, what I just mentioned, my second favorite car, I own it because that was the first picture of any car I had on my wall.
That's what I was going to ask you. I wanted to ask you which Matchbox car got you.
I don't know Matchbox car. There wasn't anything specific, really.
Oh, because that'd have been a good one, bro.
I still have some of them at home. Well, my mum does in the basement, but it wasn't really the Matchbox cars. It was just all of them. It was all of them. But I remember going to a motor show for the first time in London. And I knew what a Ferrari was, like this red thing. I knew they were red. But when I must have been 5 or 6, there's something speaks to me about this red brand, this Italian brand. And I had photos. It was me and my dad, and we had I didn't have a photo of any other car, but it was with 2 Ferraris, which are in the movie as well. Those are real pictures. And it was like that around that moment of age where it was just like cars, 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 cars. I was the kid that could recognize a car on the street in the dark just by its headlights as like a 6-year-old. I was that in tune to it. I had all the books. I'd have all the encyclopedia of all these books. I'd have all the statistics. And I was that kid.
Yeah, you saturate your pictures, your TV, everything that you want. That's how you know. If something's truly got a hold of you, that happens.
Absolutely. I was that a hold of it, and the process kind of got more explosive and deeper once, say, PlayStation came into the fore and games, because then you just expand your knowledge of cars you've never really seen before, like American stuff or even Japanese stuff, which you don't really see in the UK. So, and that around that time, so this is 8. I'm now watching it on TV, British touring cars in particular, because I could kind of recognize the car on the TV screen racing to the car on the streets, because it was it was based off the production car. Formula One, I didn't understand because it didn't look like a car to me. And with the racing games around age 8, and then the concept of what a job was around the same age, maybe 9 years old, 10 years old, I thought, look, I want to do that. My dad would always tell me and my younger brother, do something in life which is your purpose and which you're passionate about. So when you're like young, you don't really understand, but when you get to a bit older, it's like, okay, I want to do that. That brings me, I think that'll bring me fulfillment. Where at the time, I wasn't, well, thinking of it back then, it wasn't fulfillment because I wasn't that deep, but it was like, that's fun. I want to do that. Whereas now it's, as I got older, it's like, okay, that's fulfillment. That's purpose. That's the thing I want to do.
Okay, so your dad, when he says that, because I'm a father now, and I have a son around the same age that I'm having to raise up now. When you say that to your son, I want you to do it makes you happy, what you love and you're passionate about, we don't have any idea what that's going to be.
Yeah, we don't want it to be video games.
Yeah, because, and I understand. Now, granted, you turned that theory up on its head for sure, which is great. That's what you, every now and again, the Almighty puts people down here to ruin something or to open something up that has been closed off. You're absolutely one of those.
Or to prove wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, absolutely. Maybe not even prove wrong, but just to prove that wasn't the right way to do that. And it's like, so I have a kid now. So when I'm looking at them and they say that, when your dad would say, when you picked to be a racer, was he on board with that?
He didn't really take it, my word, as serious. And I didn't know how. It's a good question. Very good question. I think my dad and my parents both knew I was massively into cars, and I would watch it all the time. I'm the only person in my family that are interested in this, really, to my level. My dad has a very large extended family, and I had a couple of uncles who had some cool cars, but that's it. So I don't know if he took me seriously as like as a young person, a young kid, or even a teenager, but though it was always in my head, it was always the light that never went out. And I'm quite an arrogant person, and I got that from my dad. And it's built through my teenage years as well. For example, my good friend, he's my brother. I've known him 20 years, must be high school. I came to know him. And he watched the movie when it came out last year, and we were at a bar. He had a bit to drink, so it was honesty. It was coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Said,
okay, well then you're about to drop some truth.
Yeah, it was like that. He said, bro, you never told us, because it was a bunch of my friends as well. You've never told us that it was your dream was to be a racing driver while we were in school. I've never said it to him. And he was around when he saw the transition when I was 19, going from, well, just after finishing secondary school to then get into this. But while we were in school, when I had this in my head, I never told him. And I was thinking, you're right. But there's a reason why, when I think about it, there was people that I used to live, they're friends, but we're not close.
Yeah.
But there was friends where I grew up around my street where I was living in Wales, in Cardiff. And when you're 12 years old, I knew that I've known them pretty much all my life. But when I went to secondary school, they were a year older, sometimes 2 years older, and we kind of found our own friendship group. But we would always say when we're 12, 13, I said, what's our future life going to be like? And what's your first car going to be? Who are you going to marry? That kind of questions. And I would always say, my girlfriend's she's going to be a model, and my first car is going to be a BMW. And I ate so much dirt for all my childhood growing up in that street, because it was like a barrier. They would always say, no, there's no way a BMW is going to be your first car. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to show you. I'm like 12. I'm like, I've got 7 years to go. I'm going to show you. So there's an inbuilt arrogance. And I think there's a curiosity as well. My dad, my parents always used to say, I used to ask why for everything as a kid. Why? There was always my next follow-up thing I would say. And I think there's some parts, I think every kid is curious. I think every kid has a dream. I don't think everybody's curious, but I think there's just some parts which were fed enough to kind of once you get older, the paths, they become a bit clearer, and you have the arrogance to go down and go, no, I want to do that, rather than just having the environment succumb to the environment. Because as you get older, it's like if people say stuff, family, friends, teachers, and they kind of make you go down a path as everybody else. But I think I was arrogant enough to go, no, I don't want that. I went to university for 3 weeks and I dropped out because I thought this isn't for me. parents didn't like it. My brother was like, good for you. And a few months later, the academy came around. So it was God's plan, but it was my decision to go, no, I don't want to do this. I want to do, well, when it came about, the competition, it was like, okay, I need to do this. So yeah, it's I think when I have children and I want
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you
Perfect.
said you didn't have racers in there, but your father and your uncles, they all had that athletic gene, which means that's stitched inside of you. And it's not arrogance when
Yes.
you're a child. That's from the parent. That's from your father.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you had drive. No pun intended. But I mean, you can't even, because they don't know how to control it when you're at that age. But just the
Yes.
fact, like, especially when your old man, because that's what when your father, when he started telling you not to do that after he did, and then it turns around as that's kind of a weight. That helps you drive through into that position that you're supposed to be in. And the only reason I say that now is because of you. You broke the mold on all that. So I'm curious, because when that kid gets on the ground now, when you have kids run around, just wait. I can't wait to see what happens to you.
It's something which I'm thinking about for the last 3 years. There's many things I need to get sorted for that, but it's certainly on my mind, and I have an amount which I'd like to have, and of course I would want an heir. But the lessons that my parents have told me, they will follow through to my children, and in my way as well. I'm more developed views as well on that. But certainly my dad, when I was younger, he never forced anything on me.
Yeah.
With football especially, even when I kind of decided it's not for me, he'd never force me, because I see a lot of it when I was a kid.
Sure.
Competitive fathers and mothers, and they live through the kid, and that's wrong, because the kid then feels some kind of weight of responsibility.
Can you imagine that?
Even though all the kids that I'm playing football with knows that my dad was an ex-professional footballer, and then their father's like yelling at them, going, no, you need to do this, you need to do this. My dad was always like, he kind of took a back seat, and he gave me the opportunity. Of course, my kid, I would want them to do anything. If he was like, oh, she was like, I want to play, I don't know, badminton, or I want to play golf. It's like, I want to be in a position to kind of, okay, cool, fine, we'll go there, and to try anything. But I won't steer them down one path. I would certainly advise, and there's baseline ethics and morals and values that need to be instilled first.
Well, it had to be stressful when you have a parent that's a pro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a lot of parents, men and women that are pros and their kids. I mean, that just comes with the territory. They don't tell you that when you're becoming a pro.
Military Appreciation Month is finally here, so let's give a huge shout out to all the incredible military members and their families. Your dedication and sacrifices are truly amazing, and we see you. This May, Navy Federal Credit Union is honoring you with exclusive benefits and offers. From special rates to awesome discounts, Navy Federal's got your back. And guess what? Join Navy Federal this month and get $50 whenever you open a credit card. If you're ready to unlock all these amazing deals, go head on over to NavyFederal.org/celebrate and check out all the fantastic offers waiting just for you. Plus, with their 24/7 support team and resources like Best Cities After Service and Best Careers for Military Spouses, Navy Federal is here to support you throughout your journey. So, this Military Appreciation Month, join Navy Federal Credit Union and let them serve you just as you've served us. Thank you for your dedication and service. You are truly appreciated. Go visit NavyFederal.org today. Navy Federal is insured by the NCUA, equal housing lender. Go visit NavyFederal.org for full terms and conditions.
Well, it's like you in the military. Marcus was a Navy SEAL, and everyone's like, are you going to want your sons to be in the SEAL teams? Like, you have this legacy that you create, and you don't, as a parent, that's someone that a lot of other people look up to because you did something extraordinary. You don't want your kids to have to follow in that footstep, because it's a lot.
Bro, as abstract as your lane was to get where you were at, I can't wait to see what your kid gets into. And you're going to be like, oh, no, you're not doing that. No, we're doing this. And because of how abstract, whatever it is they were looking at. I mean, You got it. God has a great sense of humor, so you have to anticipate that. I'm just kind of giving you a heads up.
I believe that when I was a kid, I was aware that football wasn't for me, and I was aware that I'm playing football because I just want some attention from my parents when I was a kid.
yeah.
My brother started playing football before me. He's 3 years younger. And my brother certainly felt it. I never, because it was never, I knew that I wasn't a natural at it. And I never felt this pressure from other people as well that I have to perform. It was never really there. I didn't feel it. I felt that there was opportunities. It's strange. I've never had this question before about football, but I believe it has helped me doing something completely different compared to what my dad had done, to kind of, because I remember being in school and my brother was so young, he wasn't going to school, where the BBC would come down and film my dad talk about, I don't know, some part of his career. And I was like, man, this is so cool. My dad is on TV. And it was a big thing. I felt it was a massive thing. And my dad always played it down. He never really used it. He was, I just do this. He was a very modest person. And so growing up, it was never like a huge thing in the family. It's like, yes, my dad played football. It wasn't like a huge, massive thing around us. And I do believe as well, doing something completely different to my dad, you almost step out the shadow. If there was a shadow, there is, because it's more the Mardenborough name. And it's like, I'm doing something completely different and I'm casting my own shadow. Whereas my brother, bless him, he is a natural talent in football. But just situation, environment, mind wasn't quite correct. He had all the skill in the world, but it wasn't quite there. It didn't quite match up. He understands why now as an adult. But again, it's different for him because that's what he wanted to do. And maybe he felt that kind of weight on him. Whereas my children, when I have daughters, I at least want one heir, but the daughters, they can just be happy. I just want them to be happy.
Okay, this will be a conversation complete different time. I'll talk about daughters with you all day, bro.
Okay.
Wait till you get one of those on the ground.
Because they'll probably end up being most like you.
Yeah. If you want to talk about a game changer, man, we can talk about daughters all day. Because for guys like me and you, when you have that thought process like we do in that drive, they shut that down. She'll shift you to neutral, bro, and you can't do nothing. They have the man cubs, the boys, they're different because they'll get to a certain age where you'd be like, "Hey, you're gonna do what I say, otherwise, whatever." But
I mean, for the daughters, I don't have children yet, but I have kind of in my head a structure of what I believe is the right. But my daughters, I just want them to be happy. I don't want them to suffer. Just be happy.
Yeah.
Daddy's girl.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Marry somebody.
Please, please let them let them have somebody great.
Yes, but my sons, I want them to suffer. I want them to go through pain.
Sure,
because it's the only way you learn properly.
Amen.
Yes, I can tell you this stuff. My dad said the same thing, and there's a lot of parallels. The way I think now and in the future, it's like you wanted me, my brother, to suffer because it's how you learn, like in school. And so I want I don't want, God willing, I have a good situation where there's wealth and there's abundance and blah, blah, blah. But I don't want my sons to be soft.
Oh, no.
They turn out soft, like it's going to be a disaster.
Sure.
So they need to suffer.
And the best part about being where you're at now and stabilized and wealthy is when your sons come online, you can make them suffer. Be like, hey, I know I got it good, but guess what? Mm-hmm. That's every reason for you to have it tough. Well, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. That just makes them who they are. And anybody who's gone through what we've gone through knows that.
Speaking of, in the movie, there's a part where your dad takes you to work with him and lets you know, like, this is what life is like if you don't have a plan. When you were starting off on PlayStation only, did you think that you could actually have a chance at real racing? Like, using the video game simulation, did you ever think that was actually going to propel you into real racing?
No, Absolutely not. It wasn't a conscious thought. My dream would always be to be a racing driver, but I didn't know how it would happen. I just thought I was good at the game, playing it. I enjoyed playing. Any millennial from 1991 would know. Like, we just played games. It wasn't an end goal. YouTube and streaming wasn't really a thing. There wasn't any money doing it really. Well, it was just beginning, but in racing games, it wasn't a thing yet. So I just played them for fun, and I thought I was good, but there wasn't really an end target. So I can understand my parents' position when I'm a teenager, and certainly when I
Oh,
was
sure.
dropped out of university.
Yeah,
I
you
could
can see that.
understand their situation. It was like, well, what are you going to do? So I worked in a department store, in a clothing store. That's real, hanging clothes and clotheslines, and I hated it, but it was a lesson. I went to work. I used to go to work with the keys of my BMW, which I'd had maybe 6 months, and I wasn't even driving it to work. I was taking the bus or taking the bike, but I didn't have enough money to put the fuel in it to drive it to work and to pay for the parking. But I would always go to work with the key in my pocket, and it had a little BMW emblem on the key ring, and I'd be rubbing it in my pocket, just thinking this isn't it what I'm doing, but I have at least something which is bringing me joy, but
Sure.
I can't afford to use it right now. And I hated it, but it was an important milestone. But no, to answer your question, I didn't have a clear route of using the game to become a driver, but the dream never went out. So when this competition opened, I was in the right place at the right time. I was at home online. It was around February 2011, and there was a new menu, GT Academy. It was like, okay, I've heard of this in the past. Let's see how I compare to everybody else in a equal car equipment competition. Let's see how far I can go. It wasn't to win because I didn't have the comprehension. It was like, okay, there's a door open here. Let's try and run through the door and see what happens. Because I know what the prize is, because that's what I'd want to do. But I didn't think I could win because I thought it was so far away. So I just thought, how far can I go in this?
Yeah,
So that was actually from home. You were doing that. GTA Academy came across your screen just on.
Yeah, just randomly just pops. How does that happen? Because that's the best part. I mean, you're just sitting there driving your game, and then something shows up.
Yeah,
that's a lifetime change invitation.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, it shows that I qualified at the internet cafe and I was selected. But in reality, at that time, the GT Academy had run for 2 previous years. And it just happened to start opening again the time where I was at home after dropping out in university. So it was, February 2011. There's 3 stages to the competition. So the first stage is you're at home competing against everybody else at home with either of your joypad or with your wheel and pedals, and you have to qualify. So you have to set a top 20 time. For me, it was the top 20 time in Europe. It was in UK and Ireland to go through to the next step. The movie kind of brushes past this part because there's many phases and it kind of goes to the main point. But you have to qualify. It's not just you get selected. You have to be there on merit by speed. And then there's a selection process again in the intermediate phase. And then there's the final, which is at Silverstone, which the movie shows, where you're there with the other European finalists from Spain. It was Italy, the Netherlands, and somewhere else in Europe as well. And at that point, you're in car of instructors. There's no gaming. It's all in car of instructors.
Well, they fly you out there. So did you win the first? Oh man, this is I like this part. That first race, did you win that?
At home or
no, at home? Like when that thing showed up, and you're like, okay, I got a race, and you raced. How'd you do?
Well, it wasn't like that exactly. It was a time trial at home.
Yeah. So he just had to place.
So we're by ourselves. So it was the top 20. You had to set a top 20 time in order to qualify.
And you obviously set
so that. I qualified. I think I qualified 9th in the whole of the UK and Ireland. To go, that was just your foot in the door to get to the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
So then so after you earn your qualifying time, then they contact you how?
It was email. So it was all on PlayStation Network. So there's email addresses linked up. You had to enter your email address when to enter the competition in the first place. So they just literally emailed everybody in the top 20. Okay, you've qualified for the next event. Here's the details. Here's what it's going to be. Yeah. Be ready.
And what's your dad saying? Is he like, all right, son, I don't know about this? Or
so the reason when I met the producers and the script writers for the first time, and they wanted to know everything. They met me. They came over from Hollywood, and we were there for 2 days, and they wanted to know everything.
Sure, they do
my
that
whole life. And when they asked me this question, I give this example where I think maybe it was after the first day or the second day of the qualifying for the competition. I came downstairs, and my brother and my dad were watching Sky Sports News, which is like a football news channel. And I said, look, I've entered this competition, and the winner has a chance to become a racing driver. And they kind of looked at me, took their eyes away from the TV, looked at me and went, yeah, righto. And they continued to watch the football. So they kind of disregarded everything. I was so excited. I'd come down from my room and for hours. Then I went into the kitchen. I told my mum the same thing. And she said, fantastic. Let me know how you get on. Like, really enthusiastic.
All right, I want to share my morning routine that really sets the tone for my day. AG1. I've been drinking AG1 for years now. It's a top-notch nutritional supplement that supports immune health and really sets the bar high. AG1 stands out because they've perfected their formula through 52 iterations, always finding better ways to source and test the highest quality ingredients. Plus, it's NSF certified for sport, which means that it meets the toughest quality and safety standards out there. People are always asking if AG1 is the real deal, and my answer is always an obvious yes. AG1 replaces multiple supplements like multivitamins, digestive aids, and immune support, all just in one scoop. No more juggling pills, just mix that in water and you are good to go. One of the reasons I love AG1 so much is how clean and refreshing it tastes. Every morning it kickstarts my day, making me feel like I'm ready to take on the world. AG1's ingredients are heavily researched for efficiency and quality. It includes prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes for gut support, plus rhodiola and vitamin B for energy. This episode is brought to you by AG1. If you're ready to upgrade your health game, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Go drinkag1.com/TNQ. That's drinkag1.com/TNQ. Trust me, you're gonna love this.
So when I tell the story, the producers, so in the movie, they kind of, yes, my dad is against me racing, but it's more exaggerated. My mum is always on board, but my dad kind of took time for him to get on board. It's a bit more exaggerated in the movie, but the first comment or experience of me telling my parents that I've entered this thing is that my dad says one thing, which he's completely kind of disregarded, and my mum was completely on board. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was.
That's how dads are supposed to be.
So when you enter, when you get,
it was like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Actually, in my head, it's like, all right, cool. I'll show you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so when you actually get to the GTA Academy, in the movie it shows that you're in there's a space for that, and there's other people in that. Is that how it really was?
Yeah. So we were at Silverstone, the race circuit, and Silverstone has a really small circuit as well inside the track, and it's called the Stowe Complex, which is a random name for it. But it has a base, this building, and that's where we slept. There was 12 of us, and we would sleep there for 6 days. So every day we're at the circuit, waking up at the circuit. We have our own have our own little camp beds with our name and everything, all that kit. It was like,
what was that like? What's that feel
great.
like? It's great, right?
It was great. It was
to be chosen and show up, and that stuff's sitting there waiting on you with your name on it, and that comes with the feeling.
I mean, admittedly, it wasn't as glamorous as the movie shows, really, because the movie's like, it's like, wow, this is awesome. It was more kind of primitive, but it was a cool environment. Like, you were there to do some work, and to compete. But it was pretty special feeling to have all your kit there, and you look after it all yourself, the responsibility, and
So,
yeah,
so
it
you're
was
the chief
cool environment.
engineer, Jack. That's his name.
Yes,
Tell me about that. Is that
he's based off a real person. Everybody in the movie is based off of
sure?
real people. So Jack, he's based off a guy, a dear friend. He's no longer with us, but he was called Ricardo de Villa.
Oh, he passed
He
away.
was a Brazilian. Yeah, he passed away in 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Condolences, because he really caught my
So
attention in that film.
he was a guy, man. Like, you do any research on this guy, he was the man. Like, he'd been involved in motorsport for like over 50 years. He'd done everything: Formula One, designing F1 cars, worked with Emerson Fittipaldi. He would, and the reason why he was so special is because he treated everybody the same. It doesn't matter if you're some 18-year-old kid or 19-year-old kid like me, or you're a seasoned pro. He would treat you exactly the same. Whereas some people, they get a bit,
Yeah.
this is my level now. I won't talk to anybody beneath. So he was the first person to really give him a responsibility. After I won the academy, I did a test session with him for the first time in this new car. It was a step up of car that I was driving for this test. And all the previous engineers I had to that point for the last maybe 5 months, they would always kind of treat me with kid gloves because they realize I'm the winner of the GT Academy, but still they would make a joke, oh, you can't press stop and reset now. It's not a game.
Oh, sure.
You kind of
Yeah.
just laugh her off. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, in my head, it's like, yeah, funny, but I'm here to be the best I can be. He didn't make those jokes. He immediately gave me, said, okay, in motorsport, you have a run plan. You have like the meetings, and then you have what you're going to test on the car, the whole run plan, how many laps you'll do. And it's all very detailed. You're going to test these brake pads, blah, 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 blah. It's very bam, bam, bam. He did that with me straight away. He's like, okay, I want to do this, come back in and we'll talk about it. Go. And I never had that. I was like, okay, cool. Bang. Hitting all these objectives. And it was a brand new car, never raced before or tested with the current team that I was racing with. And there's a responsibility for him as well, because if I go out there and crash, it looks bad on him because the team would go, well, you gave him too much responsibility. You gave him too much, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have told him to go full gas. But he did that. He was like, okay, go out there and go push. The word push, especially when you're a young junior driver, it's kind of like it's sometimes it's a card you play and you don't know what's going to happen. Or the guy comes back and everything's fine, or the car doesn't come back. It comes back on a lorry. But he gave me that responsibility, and I respect him massively for that. And since then, in all my racing that I did with him, he was the one person to really lean into the like, okay, no, it's on you. I'll do my thing. I'll treat it as a professional, but you got to do your job. And he'll tell you if you don't do a good job. He'll say if you do a good job as well, he'll tell you about it. And which is why, yeah, this person he's a very special person to me, and which is why he's in the movie, because he was such a character. He was a chain smoking. He smoked like a pack a day of cigarettes, drank black coffee all the time,
all day,
wore yellow tinted sunglasses indoors all the time, and have stories for hours.
Those are special types of humans. Like if you get across one of those, man.
There's a scene in the movie where you're qualifying when you're first actually racing the cars, and you're qualifying against your competitor Maddie, and you knew headstrong that the brakes were glazed. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying there's no way you would know that when you're just used to simulation. Was that ever in actual simulation where your brakes would be glazed and you would know that feeling?
In simulation, no, but I know what a brake pedal is meant. A brake is meant to feel like, and it happened in real life as well. During the academy, I crashed the car into, albeit it wasn't a big one, but I went into the barrier, into the tire wall, and I was driving this. It was a proper race car at that point. It had slick tires. It was a 350Z GT2 car. And the brakes, they had these old brake pads in them, and you hit the brake and nothing happened. Like, I've just been driving a GTR or another newer car, and I hit the brake pedal, it's fine, and now I'm not stopping the car. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's something wrong here. The brakes, the discs are glazed. They're not the material is not bedding with the brake disc. So when you say this to people, they're like, yeah, you just broke too late. You just brake too late and you went off. But in my head, I'm like, no, this is what happened. But you need this as well. You need this kind of confidence and arrogance to say, no, this is what happens. And because people, when they give you responsibility, and if you kind of, especially if you're new and you kind of, you're a bit soft with your answers, like, oh, I don't know, those first impressions, they really matter. But I was adamant that, no, this is what happens, and they were. And
that, because of that, you were able to have another chance, and you qualified.
Yeah, from that, I was able to stay in the competition, because every day during the academy, there was somebody gets eliminated.
Every day.
And of course, every day. So we were there for 6 days at Silverstone. Every day there was somebody getting evicted. So at the
What's
end of
that
every
like?
day,
That's the worst. That pressure right there, man. When there's a cut, the chopping blocks up every day is freaking brutal.
It is, especially because it's filmed as well. Because they put it out as a TV show. So there's some TV and everything, and there's like a room, and there's everybody's behind a panel, the judges, and they'll say, okay, so and so step forward. It's like, am I stepping forward because am I in, or am I stepping forward because I'm going out the door?
They played you like that, huh? Really, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal, very brutal.
Let me ask you a question about. Oh, go ahead. Excuse me.
Yeah, every time I didn't really know, because in the academy on the movie they show how you're ranked in the movie, whereas in real life we never knew where we ranked against other people. Everything was, you didn't know how fast you've done compared to everybody else. You didn't know where you ranked. So when you go into those rooms at the end of the day, you had no idea. Unless you watch somebody on circuit, it's like, okay, I was definitely faster than this person. You didn't know where you stacked up against anybody. So mentally, it was
that's a mental thing.
Periods.
Yeah, they were messing with you mentally, see how you would react with each other. Probably, I get that. Let me ask you a question. In the game, Gran Turismo, when the designer designed that, I mean, he was very detailed in everything that he followed. In that game, do you have somebody in your ear like Jack? And if not, would that help? Would that have helped you? Like, is there a crew chief in the game? Is there a crew chief talking to you about what you just explained he did for you? Or is that you didn't have that till you actually
in the simulation? Do they actually simulate a crew chief
like you had when you got there?
No,
it's not, is it?
Yourself.
Yeah, you're by yourself. That was my point.
Yeah.
I was like, man, the stuff that you had to run into is the stuff you can't anticipate, like having to deal with humans.
Absolutely. It's something which isn't really spoken about so much. But after winning the academy, I said to myself, anything I have to do to become the best driver I can be, I'm going to do it. It is what it is. So whether that be fitness, whether that be having PR training, which I hated because it kind of turned me into a robot back then. Now I can speak to a camera, I can speak to people, and it's fine. But I had a very, at the time, strong Welsh accent. And the reason why I went to PR training was to get rid of that. They said, look, if you're talking to somebody who happens to not be from England or the UK, and he's Spanish, and his English isn't his first language, and you have a very strong Welsh accent, and there's engine noise when you're talking to him over the radio, he's not going to understand what you're talking about. So you have to learn how to speak correctly, Queen's English, how to present yourself, how to act, how to talk to people, how to talk to a camera, how to give an answer, which is kind of like not giving the press what they want, but kind of giving them an answer that'll satisfy them. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and that's before training in the car, which is it's a package that you have to have. And for me, it was okay, great. I have to do this. If this is what's part of being a driver, if this is what's required of me to race at a high level, which I want to race at, fine, I have to do it. But it's a thing. It's a real thing you got to go through.
That's crazy.
Ever wonder what magic feels like? Selling with Shopify. When we first started Team Never Quit back years ago, we had no idea how to create an online store or what it entailed. But now we're expanding and tracking orders with ease, all thanks to Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from first launching your online shop to reaching that $1 million milestone. And whether you're selling scented soaps or outdoor gear, or you have a service business, Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system has got you covered. Shopify turns browsers into buyers. with internet's best converting checkout rate at 36% better than any other platform out there. With Shopify Magic, their AI-powered all-star, you can sell more with less effort. Whether you're selling a little or selling a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. Businesses that grow, they grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial at shopify.com/TNQ. Go to shopify.com/TNQ and start growing your business. That is shopify.com/TNQ.
Marcus needs that to get rid of his Texas slur.
Oh, bro, when they sat me down to do all that kind of stuff, I same way. I was like, I wasn't designed to talk to you. I was designed to, do what I did. You're designed to do what you do. It's that symbiotic relationship. Matter of fact, talking usually kind of gets in the way.
We say that he talks in cursive.
I talk in cursive. Yeah. I'll hand it to you, y'all over there, man, with the Queen's English. And when y'all decide to go proper, even when y'all insult people, it's worth hearing. I mean, y'all are. And I compliment y'all on that all the time. I mean, y'all can talk.
The English has the best.
Exactly. Yeah. When you guys start going, people don't even care what you're saying. You're like, oh yeah, he insulted me. It was great.
Yeah, that is funny.
Okay, so we don't want to take all of your time, but there is a moment in the movie.
I do. I want to take all of it, man. You got me interested.
I know, but we've been through a lot. And there's a moment in the movie that just makes everyone's jaws drop and heart stop when the car is going up into the air like
took flight.
Like a kite. What was that? I mean, that gut feeling.
Hey, what's that feel like?
It had to be just.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, man. That had to be a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being on an airplane on rotate, on liftoff. That moment where the front wheels come off the ground, it's like that feeling. I would say when that happened, it had been happening all throughout practice, all throughout qualifying, and all the laps up until that moment in time. That car would always, over that crest, it's called Flutplatz in German, which means takeoff. It's an infamous part of the circuit where cars get airborne. For whatever reason, my car, throughout all the practice sessions qualifying and all the laps previously before that point, would always lift the front wheels off the ground only. So the rears were still on the ground and always the fronts. So in practice, it was quite alarming because it's like, okay, the front wheels are coming off. I can't really see where I'm going. And there's a fast right-hander immediately afterwards. But there's enough, the front would always come back down. So in the race, it would be happening 7 laps. I think it was either 7 laps previously. And the lap that it really went off was actually the in lap, because I was meant to do a driver change that lap to change to my teammates and refuel the car. So when it went up, it was like, okay, fine, it's going to come back down. And it never came back down. And at that moment in time, there was more of a headwind, apparently, there was a whole investigation going into it. But there was more of a headwind, and the car was lighter on fuel at that point in time. So when it went up, it never came down. It just kept on going. So there's a point where you realize, okay, we're not gonna come back down here. All I'm seeing is sky for a long period of time.
I mean, what were you thinking about? Or is that kind of one of those blank? I'm just curious.
I remember it vividly, everything, but I've never watched that crash back on YouTube because it's out there on all these social medias. I've never watched it back, so I know exactly what went on in that car. I can replay it frame by frame in my head. I know exactly what went through my mind. I know what I said. I know what the feeling was like when it hit the barrier for the first time, but I'll never watch that crash back because it's the worst moment in my personal life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone was tragically killed in that as well. So it's in the movie, when I was approached by the producers, and of course they wanted to have this in the movie, and Sony were great with it because they understood the significance of it. It's not something which up until that point I'd openly talk about, because there's always a journalist that wants an angle for something, and I never entertained it. It's like, okay, I understood what happened. It's tragic. I want to move on. Mm-hmm. But when the movie was coming out, of course they want to revisit that. And there's, in my head, I compartmentalize
Compartmentalize.
I
Yeah, we got
boxed
you.
things off in my head.
Yeah.
Once I learn about them, understand about them, I box them off and I don't revisit them unless I need to. So this was a deep box, which then has to be reopened. And you have to, from my point, it's like, look, I need to give everything to these guys because I cannot allow something to go out there which isn't technically correct or emotionally correct as well, just because of the situation involved. And Sony were great. They did it. It's exactly how it was.
Mm-hmm.
How the car lifted off, how it hit the barrier, again in the movie, I don't watch it. I close my eyes at that point, but I can see enough to know that they did everything correctly. And certainly the scenes afterwards, yeah, it's a horrible point in my life, and yeah, I remember it vividly. Everything.
That's when you got hit.
There's a parallel with.
That's when you get hit.
There's a parallel with you and Marcus in this. Marcus was in the SEAL teams, and he was the only one that came back. 19 of his brothers died in a certain mission, and there was a movie made about it, Lone Survivor, and that's the worst day of his life, and he hates talking about it, but it's what everybody wants to hear. And even though it's literally the worst day, and 19 others died. And so when I was watching your movie, I actually had that thought that there's a parallel between you two, knowing what it's like to have that tragedy that has happened in your life. But it's also the moment where what defines y'all is getting back up and going back out at it. And like you getting back up and making that decision to continue to race, and Marcus making that decision to get back up, and he went back to war after that. So I, as a wife, I did see that parallel between the two of you, knowing that, I mean, both of you never quit. And that's the whole, our podcast is Team Never Quit. And that was your never quit moment of not letting the tragedy define you, but coming back after that and keep going, and still honoring, being very respectful to the person who lost their life, and honoring that is a tragic moment, but pushing through and honoring them by continuing to go out there and race.
Yeah, there's a difference between getting broken and broke open.
Mm-hmm.
So the death reminds you of that.
I'm gonna have to. I'll watch the Lone Survivor.
Yes.
Is it called?
Yes.
Yes, sir. But my point with that, with you, is okay. Sometimes when that stuff happens around us, is to see if how hard I broke you if you'd stay down.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, those people love to watch racing, and they love to watch you race. So now you have a reminder to get your butt back in that car. Mm-hmm. It's obviously what the Almighty designed you for.
Mm-hmm.
So get fear out of your head.
It's a real process. Not a process. I believe that, and it's a thought process I've had in my head as well since. Like, I knew after it happens, as I have to be in a car. I need to be in a car because I need to confirm whether or not. Even I know driving's going to be fine. I knew that categorically, but I didn't know what the effect would be if, for example, when you put your helmet on and you get strapped in, some kind of psychological thing that you can't foresee. And thank God, everything back on. I was in the car within a week, and I was very grateful for the opportunity for that to happen. So for me to just confirm to myself, this is what I want to do. I confirmed it while I was in hospital. I was like, do I want to race? Yes. I need to confirm it now in the car. So everything back on. It's like, okay, I feel good. There's no weird stuff going on. But your point with not stopping because of the situation, those people the person that was killed, yeah, they're race fans, and they would go to all the Nürburgring races all the time. They would love motorsport. So for me to stop because of that would be it's a fuel. It's like I cannot stop. Mm-hmm. It's not my only fuel, but I want to do this as well. But also I need to keep going, because if I stop, it's like, it's not even a question to me. It's not even a question. But you're right. It's I certainly take into consideration that all the time. I want to do it myself. There isn't a moment of me since that moment in time that makes me want to go, I want to stop now. Like I need to, there's nothing, I need to keep going. There's more that I want to prove to the world and to myself. And is not just, I don't always have that as the forefront. So because of the person died, I can't stop.
Sure.
But it's still there.
Yeah, of course.
It's like to make myself better, whether it be training, whether that be off circuit stuff. When I get in the car, it's like I'm flat out. It's like I don't think about anything because I need to go as fast as I can to be the lap time, be as quick as I can on the lap time. But it's the stuff beyond the track which it can, okay, I'm doing this because this is going to help the racing. So it is like a fuel in that way as well. It's on my mind.
Sure. Not the front of it. I get that. But it's definitely back there. When everything starts getting removed, when you start peeling it back, you want to know where the heat source comes from. That's part of it.
So you took that and you continued hard charging through all of your races, and you did it. Do you pronounce it Le Mans?
Yeah, Le Mans.
Yeah, Le Mans. And you end up actually getting on the podium for that. You won second, is that right?
Third.
Okay. So but still, you're on the podium for that, which was, from what it looked like from the movie, just unheard of. That someone that had just started off racing.
I mean, to prove them that way, the way you did that.
I cried.
Because we were wondering how much the resistance that you were meeting in the beginning. We all noticed that, and for whatever reasons, humans, we do that. Like, I don't know if this is going to work out or not, or something like that, until somebody like you comes along, and then you're standing up on the podium. I asked the kids, I was like, hey, if I could ask this guy one question, what would it be? He's like, hey, what'd that feel like? What does that even feel like?
Yeah. There's more work to do because it's third and it's not the top step.
So you didn't even enjoy it, did you? You didn't even enjoy it for a second?
But it's also okay, how do I get to the top? And it's not because I can't enjoy the present time. And I think I was younger as well. And certainly other podiums I've had, and I've finished second or third, and I've not enjoyed them as much as winning. I'm at an age now where any podium, the story of how that podium came to be and all the processes lead up to that point, it's like I'm grateful and I'm happy that I'm not happy. I can take into consideration we've done the best that we can to get to this position, and the reason why we're not on the top step is because XYZ. Whereas previously it was just I want to be on the first step, not evaluating how I even got to that point in the first place. But yeah, back then it was, there's more work to do, need to get first.
Yeah.
So, whereas now it's different. I evaluate things a lot more in detail rather than just on the surface of just looking at the results and go, it's third, it's not first. So I enjoy them a lot more because of the process to get to that point. Because racing a car, just getting a car out of the garage, doing one lap is kind of a miracle in its own right. So you have so many variables. And people say when you win one race, you end up winning a few on a roll. And it's like a habit. It kind of, once you win a few times, it kind of doesn't get easy, but everything is going very well. But you can also go on the negative where you have a bad race and it kind of snowballs again on that way. And there's ways to stop that as well. But yeah, just getting the car up to do one lap without the thing breaking down is a massive achievement in its own right.
So that's a mental
thing. So many
thing.
variables that go involved.
The mental game that comes in with age and experience.
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, you can hear by the way y'all talk. You can hear during the interviews from the young driver, especially if you've watched somebody through their whole career when they first started, not just how they're saying it, but like what they're saying and how it affects them. But I've seen that. What you just said, that's powerful, man, because it happens. You can't help it. I don't think you can help that.
It's a natural hunger that,
yeah, and it develops itself.
Yeah.
How many? So
you understand what you can control. Like there's so many variables, so you understand what you can control. But there's a political game to play as well, which is something which I've learned recently, for the last 5 years or so. Yes, you can kind of to yourself analyze. Okay, this is why I did the best that I can, but for XYZ reasons, this is why the result isn't great. And that's not enough. When you have a career within a race team or within a manufacturer, you have to then say the same thing to the people that are important, who have a direction, who can have some influence on the direction of your career. Because if they don't know, if they're not somebody who analyzes, they just look at it and go, well, you finished sixth, not first, it's not third, finished sixth. They need to know as well. You can't just sit. Motorsport is a game where you can't just sit back and go, oh, yeah, I did the best I can. But if the people that don't know why really in detail, you're not going to end up in the most optimal situation. And I've learned that myself.
Summer is finally here, and you need the perfect shades for all of your sunny adventures. Shady Rays has you covered with premium, polarized sunglasses that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent company rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, ideal for the beach, hiking, or just hanging out in the sun. Personally, I love wearing my Shady Rays while out at the pool because the fit is perfect, the clarity is incredible, and they just look stylish. If you're worried about losing or breaking them, no sweat. Shady Rays offers lost and broken protection from day one. Plus, you can exchange or return them for free within their first 30 days if you don't love them. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is offering the best deal of the season. Go head on over to shadyrays.com and use our code TNQ for $20 off polarized sunglasses. I promise you don't want to miss out on these 5-star shades of the summer. Go visit shadyrays.com and use our code TNQ.
Absolutely.
So have you continued to race? What are you doing now?
Well, now I used to race for Nissan, so I was with them for 11 years, Nissan. So I stopped the contract in end of 2022 because they were only racing in Japan, and we just came to a disagreement. There's nothing going on in Europe, so I stopped that. The bridge is still there. We still talk with the main people that were there when I was there, but I'm now kind of a not freelance driver, but I'm not tied to any manufacturer.
A free agent?
But I am racing this year. I'm racing a McLaren in GT3. I'm doing 3 races, 1 historic race, but 3 races. The next race is April 28th and 29th in Silverstone in the UK. And it's for me to kind of prove to the race teams again, because I was been living in Japan. I did some stuff with the movie. So the last couple of years, I haven't done as much racing as I want to, and in motorsport, people only look at your last 6 months. So it's down to me again for these 3 races, to choose these 3 races because they're important. Because it's Silverstone, the Spa 24 Hours, which is the centenary year of Spa, so it's a big one, and then a race in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. And it's 3 races that are kind of cherry picked because there's going to be a lot of people there, there's going to be a lot of teams there, and it's to use for me to kind of go, hey guys, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I can still compete at the top with everybody. And then in preparation for 2025. So that's the game plan for this year.
Where's your favorite place to race?
Still the Nürburgring. But a favorite track is the Nürburgring, but favorite place to race in a championship is Japan.
Why? You just know the road. What's the feeling on?
Not just the tracks are great, but it's the way that they run the championship. It's this particular championship is called Super GT. I raced there for 5 years, and it's run by a single guy. He had his minders and people, but it's run as a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And you need that. In some areas, you need a strong figurehead, no matter if yes, it could be bad, yes, it could be good, but you need somebody who has direction, who has a real, no, we're going to do this. No, we're not going to do that. And it's ran very well. And it's only Japan, that championship only cares about Japan. So yes, you have foreigners come in, but it's very hard to get in. They have massive crowds every race. It's run very well. It makes money. It doesn't have these boom and bust cycles. It's very constant and nothing really changes, but the racing's fantastic. I'd like that. It's motorsports. You can throw money at stuff and kind of have a big boom, but then you're kind of screwed for the next 5 years. Whereas over there, they have a vision, and I like that. And it's because you have the figurehead.
Mm-hmm.
What car overall? Like if you could drive one of them, or performs the best out there? Because I heard you talking on the rings, like, hey, in the corners you got this one on the wide open on the straights. That car does better. I guess you can't really answer that question, can you? Because the difference.
Well, the best car, my favorite championship, is the one in Japan. It's called a GT 500 car. So it's like a spec series car where, I mean, a lot of downforce, crazy amount of downforce. The engines, 700 horsepower, they weigh 1,000 kilos. You know, it's the manufacturers, it's Nissan, Honda, and Toyota. They throw money at it. So you're sponsored by the manufacturers, and the cars are just awesome to drive. A lot of power, a lot of downforce, quick down the straights, and the tires they use as well. It's specifically the tires, because in motorsports, even in Formula One, you have one tire supplier, and so the spec tire.
Really?
Which, yeah, because for cost. Formula One in the back in the day used to have 2 different tire manufacturers, but it's cost because it's a war. So everybody wants to give you the best tire and they spend money. Whereas in Japan, and it's the same like this for Europe, mainly in GT championships as well. At Le Mans, the same thing. Everybody has a Michelin tire. Whereas in Japan, in Super GT, you have 3 or 4 tire manufacturers. So it's a constant war. They'll develop the tire between every race. We'll have a sheet of paper before a race, before a weekend before a race, of like the different compounds of tires. We have the different construction, and they pick the tire specifically for the temperature and the certain track characteristics for each circuit. So the performance of the tire is immense. Like you cannot wrap your head around the grip these things provide. So it's special for me because of that as well. In Japan, they do things different to the rest of the world.
Okay, so what keeps popping into my head now, are you the way you came up and you didn't develop it, but you were definitely on the groundbreaking part of it. When you turn around, do you teach now? Do you coach? I mean, after racing, I'm talking about like, you know, you feeling that at all to help these kids?
Step.
Yeah, the next kid that's trapped in the house saying, hey, how do I get to, especially with racing, because no one knows that environment, how to get into it. I learned so much just watching you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not doing it currently. I've been asked about it. It's run through my mind, and I've come to the decision no, because there's more things I need to achieve in my own career. When I get to a point where it's like, okay, now I'm good, then I will. Whereas at the moment, there's no time to focus on somebody else. It's like having the oxygen mask come down on an aeroplane. You know, you fit yourself before you help anybody else. Whereas I'm still fitting my own mask.
Yeah, check.
Before I can.
That's a great way to say that.
Help anybody else. So, yeah, the priority is for me and to kind of build my foundation. Yes, there's things I want to do in the sports. I want my own race team.
There you go.
Because you have your own ball and you can kind of do much more things, have more control. But also as well, I can choose who gets to drive in my team. And certainly the route that I used into motorsport doesn't exist anymore. Gamers into racing drivers.
It does not
exist because all these companies, they want to do esports, but they don't want to host a competition that I did, virtual to reality, because it's expensive and it's dangerous and health and safety get in the way, and it's easier. It's the easier route just to do an esports thing online, but there's no route for you to get into the real car.
Huh.
So if I have my own race team, so I can dictate who gets into my car. I can host my own competition. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, because motorsport, it's a mafia. It's like there's people involved that's there for a long time, and you're not going to change that. But I can certainly, if I have my own team, I can control in a small way who gets in, and I can maybe grow that out. So that's the plan for the future.
Sure.
Anyway.
Oh, you show them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you deal with stuff that's been in there for a long time, especially with families. It's like you show them. You don't try and make them or anything like that, man. You just show them, and they'll naturally open that door for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to learn that one too.
It's part of the plan. Part of the plan. You know, I have a good name. My name's well known, and the movie helps, and I have some status with my achievements. So it's about using those in the right way to kind of affect the change. But this is part of the plan. It's a slow process. For now, there's still things I need to achieve in the sport to kind of make that even more, kind of have more validity in the future. So I need to achieve more for that to work out even better.
Well, we're excited to watch you.
Yeah, I know you think that.
We're going to tune
and every
in.
athlete does.
Yeah.
But you definitely set a mark in the bar, for sure. So don't ever, I mean, you won't ever think about that because you're still in the game. You don't have reflecting time. That comes when you get out and you got to start teaching it back. You're like, oh, I did that. And you'll recognize that. Right now, you can't. Youth is a tool, and you're absolutely in the middle of learning all that. So just keep going. That's basically the one thing I would say to you. But
Will do.
well done. If I wanted my team, everybody to follow you, how they could keep in touch with you and know what's going on in your life, how would I do that?
Well, mainly I'm on the main social media, so I'm on Instagram, TikTok as well, and I use Twitter occasionally, but I'm quite careful what I put out there because it's out there forever. But yeah, under my name, Jann Mardenborough, or at Jann the Man on those 3 main sites. I'll be there posting regularly.
And everyone watch Gran Turismo. It's a really, really good
man.
film.
We had family dinner and movie night last night, and everybody was in there.
Yeah. And I can't tell you the last time Marcus actually sat down and watched an entire movie all the way through. I think it's been years.
Oh, many years.
And he actually sat down and watched the entire movie.
Oh,
so
man. She was crying.
Yeah.
It was a whole experience, bro.
Yeah. So in Texas, they say you got back up on your horse.
Yeah.
And
which for a racer, that's literally the thing.
Yeah, you definitely did it. And thank you for what you do and how you continue to keep going.
Yeah, God bless you, man.
Thank you, guys. God bless you as well. Appreciate you watching, and yeah, it's been great talking to you. And I'll watch your movie as well.
I'll watch you race.
Yeah.
New partnership.
Deal.
Yeah. All right.
All right, brother.
You.
Thanks again. Hey,
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.